And just like that, we have got another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Bonus edition as we are burning the midnight oil here on this Monday night. If you just missed it, had DJ Jones from Sports Visions on earlier today, and I'm just excited that I've got a platform that I could talk sports. But sometimes, I got some extra shows because there's a lot of stuff to get into that I don't have time to give you the hour-long content that I provide to the radio station, WQEE, that I have been a part of for the past 2.5 years as my podcast continues to grow as I'm approaching 900 episodes. This is episode 890. 10 more to go until we've reached that milestone of 900 episodes. And I will promise you this, I will get to 1,000 episodes because I am motivated. I'm going to get the job done. And I just love talking about sports. And this journey started way back when I was a broadcasting major at Freed-Hardeman University in the late 90s, early 2000s, where I had an opportunity to do play-by-play on the radio. And I've had my own TV show with Brad Page called The Up All Night Show. I also wrote for the college newspaper, and I also hosted a sports talk show on Saturday mornings. This was way before Marty and McGee. They have dominated Saturday mornings. It was a very unique time slot for me because I know that Saturday mornings, typically there's not a whole lot of listeners, but I had some creative control where I got to do whatever I wanted to do as far as talking about sports, within reason, because, you still got FCC violations. It's a radio station. But, I've never was really controversial or anything like that. I just wanted to give you the sports content and the hot sports takes that, may be controversial, but, I give those hot sports takes because that's just the talent that I have been blessed with. And this journey started and finished when I graduated in 2006, and my first job out of college was working for a minor league baseball team called the West Tennessee Diamond Jacks. It was tough because out of college, applying for radio stations, I applied for WSIB in Selmer and got it. And then one day the station manager decided, you know what? We actually like the guys we got rid of, so we're just going to bring them back. And, they just completely forgot about me. That's neither here or there. Also, 95.6 in Lexington, ESPN Radio. I knew who the station manager was. I applied for a position there, and I didn't get the job either. I didn't get a job at a sports talk radio station in Jackson, Tennessee, and the list goes on and on and on. And, my takeaway on this is the industry has changed. So that platform 20 years ago of being on sports talk radio, it is very minimal. I mean, if it doesn't exist, a lot of stuff is automated now, but we have a new generation of broadcasters, and it's talking about live streaming, this Facebook page, YouTube channel, the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, talking about Georgia Alabama Sports Live, talking about the Morning Five. I had Billy Lindahl on the show. I'm going to air that episode tomorrow. And we are in the thick of it when it comes to high school football. We just had week 1. I'll have my Georgia Alabama Sports Live show with Thrift Behringer that we do later this week as well. So you want to check that out. And I'm just going to continue grinding like the great Josh Pate says. The grind is a blessing. But here's the thing. I actually took a very long break from the sports broadcasting. I think it was about 2006. I moved to Atlanta. And I admit, when I first moved to Atlanta, I was playing at 790 The Zone, 92.9 The Game. When it came on the scene in 2012. It didn't exist in 2006. It was 680 The Fan and 790 The Zone. Even though 92.9 The Game has a lot of former 790 The Zone media members. You got 11 Alive, you got Fox 5, just WSB over there, ABC affiliate in Atlanta. And I kept applying, and I come to realize that, living in a big market, because I lived in Sacramento, I lived in Memphis, and then living in the metro Atlanta area, that it's like a needle in the haystack. Everybody loves sports, and everybody feels that they are a broadcasting talent. And so how do you distinct yourself compared to all the other broadcasters out there that want to try to get on the air? I remember 2011, I'll remember this to this day, had an audition for the complete broadcasting dream job. And my audition was great. They called me back for a second audition, but so was everybody else. What makes me unique compared to everybody else? Because everybody else can get on the radio and talk sports. Everybody else can get on a podcast and talk sports, but I had to find my niche. I had to find something that was unique about my style, and I think it's the flow, it's the delivery, it's the fact that I did go to broadcasting school. I also went to the Defense Information School at Fort Meade, Maryland for the military, so I'm also a combat correspondent. I've learned the technical side of broadcasting, like the editing, like putting together news packages, like putting together voiceovers and video over video when you trying to avoid a jump cut when you're trying to edit video. I've learned all that at the Defense Information School and at Free Hardeman University as I was a broadcasting major. So all that being said, not everybody could be an on-air talent. And there were times where I didn't think that I was an on-air talent, but sometimes, you get more comfortable talking in front of the camera. And when you have a podcast like I've had, where I'm about to approach 900 episodes, this is giving me more and more experience. And this is what I love about the platform that I have. There are some motivating factors because even though I did not succeed as a broadcaster in Atlanta, I still had a full-time job, moved to Columbus in 2015. I'm not saying I gave up. I just didn't know if Columbus would be the same vibe as Atlanta, that there would be 100 talented broadcasters and they all want to be on the radio in Columbus. I didn't know about that. I know in 2015, you look back, the past is the past. I'm ready to move on, but I know that there was local sports talk radio in Columbus. I didn't discover it until 2018 when I started listening to the Sports Zone with Stephen Williams. But Sports Visions with DJ Jones and Dale Williams has been around since 2004. I didn't really know about that until maybe I started watching it about 2020, 2021. So I was really lost in the sauce when I first came to Columbus. I didn't really know about local sports talk radio or local sports TV for that matter. It wasn't until 2020. But back to 2015 when they had the press box with Bobby Z and friends, there was a lot of great opportunities just to go in to the station at 95.7 and just listen to Bobby Z and all his talented broadcasters that would go on to become future stars. I mean, you look at Josh Pate, you look at Buckets, you look at Jonathan Rivers, you look at Thrift Behringer, you look at Tyler Redmond. So many great broadcasters that came out of the press box with Bobby Z and friends. 2018, they had the Sports Zone with Stephen Williams. I actually remember calling in to the Sports Zone with Stephen Williams. It was a talk show where when I listened to it, it started getting me to think, I could probably do this. In fact, I really want to do this. How do I do this? And in 2019, I started listening to Sports Unleashed with Bam and Reggie Reg. And, Bam is great. I love his voice. He's got a lot of knowledge. He's energetic. And I've had him on my show too. I respect the talent. And, unfortunately, he left in 2019 to pursue other some other jobs. And so his producer, Reggie Reg, was looking for a co-host in December of 2019. Submitted an audition tape. I figured, why not? I actually saw it on social media. I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. I got an audition January of 2020, and a light bulb went off. Soon as I got that audition in January of 2020, not only did that give me credibility, I started getting comfortable, thinking to myself, yeah, I can do this. In fact, I want to do this. I'm going to pursue this. And so that's when I started my podcast. The Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge was officially born, and it really was a little bit of help from one of my college buddies, Nathan Spees, who had a podcast called Tennessee Titans Talk. He invited me to be a guest on his podcast to talk about the Super Bowl in 2020 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers, because he knew that I was a 49ers fan. So with that being said, he showed me how to do a podcast. I immediately fell in love with it. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I did not care about the listeners. I just wanted to talk about sports. I wanted to gain that experience to talk about sports, not ramble on, but talk about sports and give you my hot sports take, give you a little bit of knowledge, maybe go back in the vault, have a nostalgia show, talk about some of the great moments in sports history. I pretty much tried to do it all because I felt like this was my calling. So back to 2020, audition went well, had a second audition in February. My podcast is already off the ground. I kind of feel, okay, if I don't get this, I could just fall back to my podcast because this is actually cool. I enjoy doing it, and I learned how to get it on Apple Podcasts, so I thought it was pretty fun. But unfortunately, when they were going to make a decision on who the next co-host was going to be, probably right around the first weekend of March, I'm calling them up and I'm saying, hey, have you guys made a decision yet? Well, the pandemic happened. I'll never forget that day. March 11th, 2020. It was when the entire sports world shut down for 2 months. And they haven't had local sports talk radio in that radio station since then. But I've had opportunities. My podcast is continuing to grow. I'm continuing just to follow my niche. People are listening to me and they say, hey, this guy has got some talent. He knows what he's talking about. He's got a pretty good broadcasting voice. And, I'm not trying to get an ego because you can't have egos in this industry. Even though I got a pretty good broadcasting voice and a talent, we're going to make mistakes. We're human. And even though like my broadcasting colleagues now may have been my competitors 4 years ago, I would love to work with all of them because, talent recognizes talent. LeBron decided to go to the Miami Heat and play with Dwayne Wade. You've got to look at like that and see the bigger picture. And that's why I'm a believer in Georgia Alabama Sports Live and what Thrift Behringer is doing. But I mean, that's, 4 years down the road from where I was at 2020. 2021, somebody offered me the public address announcing position at Russell County. And I talked to Coach Dylan Griggs, fell in love with that. I loved PA announcing. And then I met the producers over at Beam, Toygar and Chris Gates, and they were broadcasting the game on Beam. And I'm like, man, I love public address announcing, but I actually like play-by-play. And so I was offered to be the play-by-play guy for the Beam game of the week in 2022. And then that's when Thrift Behringer discovered me. In fact, he actually discovered me maybe a couple months earlier because, man, I'm getting way ahead of myself because I completely forgot about the Rapids. The Rapids happened 3 years ago. The new NISL indoor soccer team. And while I was the public address announcer for Russell County, one of the part-time owners, one of the owners of the Columbus Rapids, I'm not going to say part-time, but Coach Jason Gibson of the Columbus Lions offers me the announcer position for the Columbus Rapids. And the first game I ever did was December the 30th of 2021 when the Rapids took on the Fayetteville Fury. And that's where I realized that, yeah, I love announcing, wasn't really a soccer guy, got trashed by several people on YouTube. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. But I think that the Rapids gave me that networking ability where I got to know, the major players in this industry. And I've built a very good relationship. It also led to the Columbus Lions in the summer of 2022, which led to the Beam High School Game of the Week in 2023. And then that's when I started doing things with Thrift Behringer, first on his Facebook page in 2023, and then Georgia Alabama Sports Live for a little bit over a year. And that's where I'm at. I love it. I think we've got something special. And I do believe that with the talent that we have on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, that we could take it to the next level. Because I do believe this is the new platform. This is the new industry. But some of the lessons learned along the way, number one, like when you're in the media, you got to stay professional at all times. And I'm still learning to do that at all times. I can be a fan. I mean, I've been in a press conference room with Kirby Smart, but I was professional, but it was pretty cool. I mean, I've got to do some cool stuff. as a broadcaster. I think my one moment that I kind of, could have done a little bit better. So June of last year, Thrip Barringer invited me on the Sports Visions radio show, and one of the guests on the show was Josh Pate. And a lot of you know that Josh Pate, probably one of the most successful media members to come out of Columbus and make it on the national scene. I'm a huge fan of his. I love the Late Kick with Josh Pate podcast, and I actually thought the interview was fine. I just I was a little nervous, and you could tell, and I'm sure Josh could tell that I'm nervous, and probably was wondering who is this guy. Since then, that's motivated me to be a better broadcaster and trying to prove myself as a broadcaster, not just a play-by-play announcer, but somebody that can get on this platform and talk sports. And there's a lot of knowledge about sports, and there's also just a lot of passion that is waiting to come out. And so get ready, because as I'm continuing to grow and thrive as a broadcaster, I'm not trying to make it big. I mean, I live in Columbus. I have a good life. I love talking sports. I just want to continue doing my podcast, interviewing guests, and just talking about sports. And I'm very blessed that Ryan O'Neal gave me a chance at WQEE, which I've been there for a little over than 2.5 years. I've been on Rod Peterson's show. I've been on Mac McGee's show. I've actually been guests on other people's podcasts, like the Philip Jordan show, and every now and then I'm asked to be a guest on Sports Vision. So I'm truly blessed. I hope that you guys have a great night. This was something I felt like I had to do. Not really part of the normal show that I do, which my podcast you can download and listen to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. I love the producing side of broadcasting as well. I love the research. I love going into the history books and just learning as much as I can. I went and bought John Nelson's book. He is just a historian when it comes to Georgia high school football, and he romanticizes about it. And I just don't think there's anybody out there that could paint the picture like John Nelson does when it comes to telling the story about a team like Schley County in the middle of Ellaville, Georgia, where the entire town shuts down and they watch the Schley County Wildcats on a Friday night. It doesn't get any better than that. And this is really what high school football is all about. This is why I love doing my podcast. This is why I love having guests on my show. This has really been fun. I got some more shows coming up. Tomorrow's show, at noon, I'll have the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. Well, it's not that. It's on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Facebook page and YouTube channel. It's called the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge Scoreboard Show. It airs every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Facebook page and YouTube channel, where I will break down all the scores that happened over week 1. I will preview week 2. I might even get into some Braves and some college football, maybe some Atlanta Dream, and talking the NFL as well. And then the next couple of shows, I have got a treat for you. So tomorrow's show, I'm going to have Billy Lindahl. He's a host of a podcast called The Morning Five, as he covers sports for Hometown Sports Media up in West Georgia. They cover teams like Haralson County, Mount Zion, Bremen, Villa Rica, Temple, Bowden, Carrollton, Central Carrollton. A lot of great teams over in the West Georgia area. He covers that. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to have Carl Dukes from Dukes and Bell, 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. I'm excited because I met this guy in 2019. So in 2019, I kind of entertained the idea of getting into sports broadcasting. I actually was having a conversation with their producer. I'm surprised we didn't exchange numbers. But I actually went to a remote because I was up at Dobbins for work, and I just happened to go to Big Chow Grill, which was like my favorite place in Atlanta. But they were doing a remote right across the street at Murph's, and I just wanted to check it out. I got to meet Dukes and Bell, and told him I was a big fan. I loved their show, and took a picture with them. And so 5 years later, Carl Dukes is coming on the sports beat. I'm excited about this. I might even throw up that picture on my show just to see if he remembers. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Thank you, everybody, for watching this late night edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge.